What do you make of the whole addendum issue?
Precisely, like for me, there's
As
not
a lawyer,
much to
as
say.
a lawyer.
The whole addendum issue is there shouldn't be an issue. It's if there is transparency, then you wouldn't have this addendum issue, because if you say that the addendum was made after the meeting that was held by the Pardons Board, then you can clearly say that this addendum is not part of the Pardons Board. That's it. But why do you go all over the place and then send it to the court? And for what? For the court to just declare that it does exist? So what is all this? This is theatre. You probably, it's because if you say this way, you're going to upset one group. And if you say the other way, you're going to upset another group. That's probably because you put yourself in that situation, because you have compromised yourself.
The Prime Minister said, and I'm quoting here, the prosecution of several cases following the 2018 general election were flawed, as it was done in a rush. It was done with such venom and enmity, an act of political vengeance. What's your response to the Prime Minister's statement?
I mean, who is he saying? Who is the group or the person who is responsible to have carried such vendetta? Is he questioning the courts? How many judges sat and found Najib, for example, convicted? And if you're saying that it was a malicious prosecution, you have just undermined whatever decision to the very top level, the highest court. And if that is the case, then why give discount? Then why don't you free him? If you think that it was completely wrong and it was malicious, it was full of venom, then you should free the person. He's a victim. But it's neither this nor that. You gave a 50% discount and you created this whole addendum thing. And of course, we've still not resolved this issue of house arrest. We're not clear what's going to happen. So why halfway? It's either he's a victim or he's not. So why don't you just release Najib? I mean, I dare him to release Najib, since you say that it's full of venom, and who is he talking about? So it's a typical style of the Prime Minister to, waffle about on something which he can clearly answer, or he should answer.
The Prime Minister's war on corruption is now slightly more than 2 years. How would you rate his performance as a former MACC chief?
I don't think it's a war. It's a theatre for public consumption. Because if it is a war, we won't have this issue of addendum. If it is a war, we won't have a discount for Najib's case. If it is a war, we won't have Zahid Hamidi as Deputy Prime Minister when facing multiple charges. Now, if it is a war, for me, it's not one charge or two charges. It's 47 charges at the very least, And the case is dropped. So if it's a war on corruption, that wouldn't have happened. And you are going after... Now, if it is really a war of corruption, then you won't only go after persons you have declared as enemy or you perceive as enemy. You would have gone after anybody.
Yes.
So it's very selective.
It seems like it's DNAA for friends and MACC for enemies.
Correct. Yeah. So what war are we talking about? I think it's still.
Has he got anything? Did he do anything right in the last 2.5 years, or
I'm really trying to think.
In terms of corruption, what about the Public Fiscal Finance and Fiscal Responsibility Act? What about the National Anti-Corruption Strategy that was launched in June last year?
We had an organization called GIACC, which is created during 2018 in order to advise the Prime Minister, the government, on how to prevent corruption. And there was a 5-year plan. And it was a body outside the MACC. But I think after the government took over, this current government took over, GIACC have been brought back into MACC. That makes no sense, because the idea was to have a national anti-corruption plan, and how do you carry out? So you had to make sure that every agency have all the equipments, all the budget, and all the training in order to prevent corruption. But instead, what do we get? We, from time to time, we hear appointments of cronies in various bodies. These are all things that you have spoken out against. We're not, speaking out of vacuum. And so I don't see any real political will to wipe out corruption.
What goes through your mind when you see people who were charged? I think you touched on it a little earlier, but when you see people who were charged with serious crimes getting DNAs and then going on to be appointed to very senior positions?
That's just sheer hypocrisy. I mean, what else to say? It's hypocrisy because it's a lie to the public. The public was excited finally, after a lot of outcry and especially after COVID and all this, all the issues that they've been held with. They thought there was hope. And then, it's not too long when everything's dashed. And to see the very people that you were attacking and criticizing is now sitting with you and laughing, and enjoying it. But the public don't feel any sign of reform. There is nothing. They are not getting an ounce of benefit from appointing this particular government. The way I look at it, because at the very least, when when it was Barisan Nasional, of course there was a lot of corruption, there was a lot of issues, but there was some public that felt that they wanted stability while there's all this corruption thing. But right now, it's neither here nor there. Everyone is upset. Everyone is frustrated. So it's a horrible time, and it just exposes the sheer level of hypocrisy of politicians, generally speaking. Yeah.